Hey everyone, welcome to CVR World Cup Roundtable. We are 4 weeks into the CVR League and there is lots to talk about, lots going on. So joining me today, I have Frank Garcia, CEO and founder of CVR World Cup and All Things Cyclogent. Hunter Allen, founder, Peaks Coaching, and lead coach and designer of the CVR training programs. Kim Little, Team X racer and CycleView engineer. And Casey Shum, Team X racer and live streamer and commenter for the CVR World Cup League. And I'm Beth York, and I'll be moderating the program today. But let's start off with you, Frank. For people who don't know or might not realize, tell us a little bit about what is the CVR World Cup League.
Well, it's a physical esports league. It has three primary aspects. When we view it, it's global, it's media-centric, also known as esports. And while it occurs in a virtual environment, Zwift, it also requires high-intensity physical activity. So the CVR World Cup League is genuinely a World Cup. We not only do major events in different countries, we provide races in 8 zones that span the world. This also allows people from any geographic region
Hey everyone, welcome to CVR World Cup Roundtable. We are 4 weeks into the CVR League and there is lots to talk about, lots going on. So joining me today, I have Frank Garcia, CEO and founder of CVR World Cup and All Things Cyclogent. Hunter Allen, founder, Peaks Coaching, and lead coach and designer of the CVR training programs. Kim Little, Team X racer and CycleView engineer. And Casey Shum, Team X racer and live streamer and commenter for the CVR World Cup League. And I'm Beth York, and I'll be moderating the program today. But let's start off with you, Frank. For people who don't know or might not realize, tell us a little bit about what is the CVR World Cup League.
Well, it's a physical esports league. It has three primary aspects when we view it. It's global, it's media-centric, also known as esports. And while it occurs in a virtual environment, Zwift, it also requires high-intensity physical activity. So the CVR World Cup League is genuinely a World Cup. We not only do major events in different countries, we provide races in 8 zones that span the world. This also allows people from any geographic region the opportunity to race, and also offers a great deal of time flexibility for people to race as well.
And what is the mission?
We're focused on esports. That means media is a central part of everything we do with the league, and that will become more prominent over time. But a lot of people will see that we're encouraging streaming, that we're really an entertainment play. So the mission of the league is to provide outstanding entertainment both for racers and viewers. Viewership is key, and that's one of the ways that we'll keep the league free and also be able to provide prizes over time.
Right. And we'll talk more about CycleView and all of the streaming that's been going on. But from, being 4 weeks in and from a league perspective, what's been your reaction?
It's going well. I think the league has lots of momentum. We have nearly 2,000 members. We have a large influx of new racers. The racing has been outstanding, very exciting to watch. Streaming has been reaching lots of people. Facebook is starting to push us to broader audiences. So a really good start to the league. We've had some bumps as well. We expected a few due to how quickly we're rolling stuff out. We are interested in moving quickly. But we've had a few more than we would have liked. So I take responsibility for that. I don't know that it was the best planning to launch a number of major initiatives the day of and the day after the holidays. So that was probably not brilliant on my part.
Anything new is bound to have some bumps, but I also think that there's some sort of confusion because this league is doing things a little bit differently with brackets, which is a little different than the categories that people might be more familiar with. Absolutely.
So it's one of the areas that we had a few bumps in terms of getting the brackets right. And then one of the issues that will still linger a little bit through this season is bracket assignments in general. So while we were pleasantly surprised by the large influx of new riders, those new riders didn't have racing histories. So we couldn't look at rankings or racing histories to sort of place them in an appropriate bracket to start in our inaugural season. And so we'll have to work through that. And obviously next season it'll be better because we'll see all of the performance of the people performing this season. And if there's anybody just clearly miscalibrated, obviously not in the correct bracket, then we'll move them. I think there's still some confusion between watts per kilogram and how some of the other races categorize racers, and so we'll just work through that. We've got an outstanding team, working on the bumps and also working on communications. Obviously, we're here today to talk about some of those things as well.
And we really are just, 4 weeks in, and it's a lot to take in and a lot to digest. And we'll come back to you in a bit, Frank. But I'm a racer. We've got Kim Little. We've got Casey Shum here to talk a little bit about racing, because really it's about the racing. So, Kim, maybe we can start with you. How's it been going? How's the racing been going with you?
Yeah, so I'm in the E group, which happens to be the largest zone. So it's been tough. There's been some I've done all 3 races so far. Every single one has been down to the line, super fast sprint finishes. So it's been super tough. We've had some great participation in them. Nearly 200 riders in the E zone for every race so far. So it's been really good. A nice mix between the different brackets, which has been great. Good mix of ladies racing as well, and some
Busy zone. It's been so exciting to watch.
Yeah, and there's been lots of new races as well. I've managed to drag my girlfriend into her first ever race as well, so she's been participating. There's been lots of guys streaming in CycleView for this zone as well, so that's been a great aspect. On one of the first opportunities I've had to use CycleView in that respect, so actually see other people's faces and body language and see the pain on their face while they've been racing has added a new dimension to it, and I've really enjoyed that part as well.
It's been a nice complement to, what we've been seeing. Zwift Community Live's been streaming, and, to actually see everybody on CycleView, streaming ugly and really seeing the body language has been pretty fun to have that. You can really dig into it a little bit.
Yeah, it really is, and you can certainly see the effort some people are putting out. It definitely adds another dimension to it. So I've been enjoying that part, and I've been really enjoying watching the other zone races as well. So, for example, your zone, Beth, has been, especially in the ladies' races, had some really close finishes on the different types of course. Casey's zone has been great, and I think with the split zones as well. I think between them, they can, by watching the other races, you can get some tips and little sort of sneaky. Sort of aspects of how the race previous has gone, and sometimes it affects your race. So, for example, last week on the London course, it came down to a sprint finish at the end, and I left it really late and managed to get the win on that. And Casey did exactly the same thing, and it worked really well for him as well. So I think you can get a few little hints from watching some of the other races as well. So that part really works. So that part's been great. I've out of all the series so far, obviously I'm a bit biased, but it's been really good fun so far.
Yeah, just the intensity. I mean, the races have been so intense, and I think I've worked harder than I've ever worked.
Yeah, for sure, and there's a good mix of course as well, isn't there? They have been a little bit hill biased so far, but next week I think we're going to have a flatter course, so that should mix the results up a little bit. Frank's favourite, yeah.
Yes, flat.
Frank, we know if you were in charge of the course selection, they'd all be flat. So we know that you're not in charge of the course selection.
that all be flat, maybe slightly downhill, maybe until the end, which would be slightly like 1% uphill.
So Casey, what about you? Besides stealing some of your team, sharing some of your team strategies here, talk to me a little bit about your perspective. What have you seen in these past 4 weeks?
Yeah, it's been very interesting watching how the weeks have played out through the league. The difference in the racing now that there's points involved, and also the difference in how people are racing when you have that open streaming going on and some of that interaction. I know for me that interaction from the live stream and things like that are very motivating while you're racing, being able to interact with the audience. So I'm racing in Zone F, as Kim spoke to, and I've been doing a lot of commenting on Zone C and Zone H, and just understanding how the different dynamics in each race from different racers that are present and people that show up that aren't in the league, and how we as racers react to that. So it's been great to kind of witness how that has changed typical Zwift racing, where you're just going for individual single results for the day. Now we're playing the strategies a little bit different to kind of spot who's in the league versus who's just racing for a little glory on that given day, and then how we have to change up our strategy. We did Box Hill 2 weeks in a row, and the first race we did on Box Hill, I got away on the second climb, and won the. As far as points wise, I won first place in points on that race by getting away a little bit, and it was very clear the second race up Box Hill, no one was going to let me get away. They weren't going to let that gap form, and I had to kind of rely on Kim's type strategy that he used earlier in the day to take a sprint, and you get to know your competitors racing them week after week. So in that instance, I knew I had to sprint earlier because I had another team racer there from draft, Adam Zimmerman, that very clearly is stronger than me in a short sprint. And I've shown to have a little bit more endurance. So I went for a really long sprint, and it worked out timing.
Gotcha. So, Casey, you've been commenting, you've been racing, but you're also doing the training. So you've kind of got a lot going on. How is all of that working out for you?
Yeah, I'm doing the advanced training program through CVR training that is catered to allowing me to race on Tuesdays. So the training plan is great and hard. The weekend programs for the training on Monday. I'm glad Monday is the rest day for the Tuesday races. I've been racing really well on Tuesdays, but I also race on a league on Thursdays, and I've been suffering a little bit on Thursdays. Due to the high workload and having hard workouts on Wednesday as well in our group workouts, but that's a sacrifice that I'm making as a racer to try to improve my overall fitness. So it's a trade-off that I've had to do, but I've really enjoyed the training plan. It's something that I haven't done in the past, having dedicated training like that, and I'm not spending any more time on the bike than what I normally would, but definitely suffering a lot more on the long rides on the weekends.
So training harder and smarter.
Yes.
Or maybe, I don't know, smarter. Yeah, that if it hurts, right? Like, okay.
Right. When they label high zone 2 as recover, and you never go below that wattage for 2.5 hours or something close to that. The cardiac drift that I get toward the end of those workouts is pretty phenomenal. When I'm sitting in threshold zone and high zone 2 power by the end of the workout, you've done some real work at this fitness level.
I think I had the same experience, Casey. I pre-ate some of the dog food Hunter sent me, and those long rides, I was like, really? That's what I've been doing wrong for a while. I've been going too easy on the easy days.
Yeah, one of the things that I've done a lot in the training that I don't do in the racing because my mind is always going strategy-wise in the racing or completely tuned out because of the pain that you're going through. I focus a lot on the training on things like breathing and staying loose and being comfortable on the bike because you are suffering, but you're not trying to hold on to a wheel or something like that. So I think it's helped me from that perspective, and I think it carries over to the race because you're not consciously working on those things, but if you do them in your training and work on them in the training, it seems to carry over to the race.
Well, that's where sort of the connection of the mental and the physical, when you're, in that hurt locker. I mean, last week I was racing and I was getting attacked pretty hard, and I got dropped, and I was wondering if I could make it up. And I'm kind of doing that self-assessment where I'm saying, well, what do I have left? What do I think she has left? Can I pull this back? So the mental aspects of training really have helped me in the racing be self-aware and sort of understand what I have. So it's been a little enlightening to me to know, oh, this is what it feels like when I'm pushing this hard, and this is how much I have left. And so it's been very educational.
Yeah, and there was two things, Beth. First of all, I was screaming at my computer watching you race because you kept pulling the rider back after she attacked you, and then you would start trading pulls. And me as a sprinter, I'm like, you just don't do that. They've clearly stated they want to do all the work once they've attacked you.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing on that. So she was attacking me pretty hard. We were on the second lap, and I knew Box Hill was coming. And she gapped me by like 5 or 6 seconds. And I knew that if I could make it back, she was 6, 7 watts per kilogram. And if I could close that gap, that she'd be pretty tired. So it may have looked like we were trading pulls on the front, and maybe at some point we were, but I was just trying to push her because I knew she was going to be tired from those attacks. So I wanted to keep the pedal down and keep the pressure on, and a new Box Hill was coming, and that's where I had dropped her on the first lap. So I was hoping that I could close the gap without having to match that same explosive power that she gave, and be able to really drop her again on box, which is what I did. So it worked.
But the real essence of that was it was fun to watch. It was great to see you pull back. A lot of people give up at that point, and to sort of hang in there and time trial, and you could see, I could see that it wasn't easy. It was hurting. And I was like, is she gonna keep going? Is she gonna get it back? And each time you pulled it back, and you ended that race with a great finish as well. So it was great to watch, and that's esports and streaming, and that's really the essence of where we want to go. Pull in viewer. That kind of thing is going to pull in viewership.
Now, what you'll find next time, Beth, is your competitor now knows what you're good at and how you reacted there. And next time, you may have to react a little differently. That's what I've seen is my competitors in the league, they expect you to repeat what you did last time and respond in the same way. And if you continue to do that, they will figure out how to exploit that. So that's one of the best things I've seen in the leagues is how I've had to adjust personally against the people, because they start to know what you are good at and how you will react to those things in a race.
Yes, well, that's true. So I know that she can drop some power, and this particular rider, and I feel like I've raced her in some other races before, I've seen what this one particular woman can do, and she's pretty strong, and I have, and I'm not going to say out loud, but I have some ideas for tomorrow's race. Let's since we're talking a little bit about training as well as the racing, let's bring Hunter into the conversation. Hunter, thanks for being patient while we are like yucking on all of the racing stuff. So talk to me about the training programs, and your ideas behind them when you were building them, and what people can expect from the training if they haven't.
Absolutely. I mean, what we really wanted to accomplish was the fact that we wanted to make sure that we covered all different fitness levels in the training program, because there's a lot of different fitness levels out there, and we wanted to make sure it was available to everyone. So we made a beginner plan, an intermediate plan, and an advanced plan. And not only that, then what we did was, well, there are different strengths and weaknesses we each have, and so you wanted to be able to address those things. And so one of the plans is called the Threshold Improvement Plan. So if you want to improve your functional threshold power, which is your sustainable power, then we also have one called Functional Reserve Capacity, which is really the short efforts. So those short, hard hills, those short, hard attacks, the ability to recover quickly after a really hard effort. That's functional reserve capacity. Then, if you want it all, then we've got the all-arounder plan, which gives you a combination of both FTP, improving your threshold power, and your functional reserve capacity. And lastly, we wanted to make sure that the racers had a plan. So folks like Casey, who wanted to say, hey, I want to race on Tuesday nights or race on Thursday nights or whenever, and also be a part of the training challenge. That's the plan for them. So that was really the goal behind those when I created them and wrote them. And so it's a challenge, because not only that is you have time constraints. So some people are really constrained with their time. So we made 2 plans. So each of those plans also has, less than 10 hours if you have that less than 10 hours a week to train, and then more than 10 hours if you have more than 10 hours to train. So that allowed us to hopefully hit all the bases. And as we have more seasons, we'll have more plans as well that'll be seasonal. Really, these are the winter season and planned for the winter season. So that's a real critical piece of that.
And I go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, that's it.
Well, and I did a racing plan, and I have not been very consistent. So guilty. So maybe you can explain sort of what the benefit of being consistent besides training, but in terms of the training program, there's consistency points. There's sort of incentives and ways to keep you kind of motivated on these training plans besides your general fitness.
Absolutely. So one of so hopefully that folks who are watching realize this. The training challenge, that's really your ticket into the performance bracket. So there are two brackets. We have the elite bracket, we have the performance bracket, and really this is the way to get into that. So anybody who wants to make it, who's not a crazy super elite cyclist, is going to have a shot at making this performance bracket final, which is really, really cool because that's outstanding in terms of the ability to give it to everyone. Everybody has a chance, an even chance to do it, no matter what if you're a beginner or an intermediate or an advanced rider. And we're taking the top 10 based women and top 10 men based on their rankings. Rankings are determined based on a bunch of different things. Number one, they're based on what is how much you've improved. So you have an initial test where you do your initial test, and then what you do at the end of the 8 weeks, how you've improved for that period of time. Then we also have, have you been uploading your data consistently? So if you're prescribed an hour workout, then we want to see that, hey, you've uploaded an hour workout or greater, or a percentage of that. And then we also look at, you have to do 5 group workouts. So that's a requirement as well. We have group workouts throughout the whole entire time, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. And you can pick multiple times that we have these group workouts to accommodate people in different areas of the world. And then we have 2 training races. So if you're, most of the training challenge folks right now aren't also in the league. And so they want to do some races too, and we have 2 races for them, and so you get some points based on your finishing places in that. But if you're in the league, then you're getting credit for those races, but you only get credit for 2, so you don't get any more than just two races.
And let me ask you something about the group workouts. Are those led by a Peaks coach?
Yes. So I've got an army of coaches here. We've got 50 coaches, and they've really stepped up. We've got a coach at every group workout, whether it's 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock at night, Saturday, whenever. I'm leading the Wednesday ride at 12:15 East Coast time, really to cater to the European crowd. So if you want to do that one, that's the one I'm leading. But we have amazing coaches. They give you tips within the workout all along. They're texting, they're messaging, they're encouraging throughout. So that makes it really special too. And we've got a lot of amazing coaches, incredible knowledge, and they're really enjoying this and enjoying working with folks. And so we're trying to make this as personal and as much fun as possible.
Yeah, well, I think that the group workout mode is really awesome, but it's better if you have somebody to kind of keep you going, and that you can ask those questions. What are we doing in this interval and why? And so I think that's valuable. So did I miss anything? I know that we've had, one of the things that I've noticed is that, there's been a lot of posting on, the community pages with sort of questions. Sometimes it's a very simple answer that the league has, been able to answer. But maybe we could talk a little bit about some of the questions that have come up and, and maybe provide some answers. I know at the beginning there was some confusion about the brackets. We talked a little bit about that. Are there other points that we can take this time here to clarify and answer some questions?
I think one of the other issues, I've seen some posts on streaming, and why is there points for streaming? Hopefully, as people understand our mission, they've picked up that that's an important aspect of the league, and we'll continue to to promote that. We'll of course listen to people. Maybe the points, the amount of points, get adjusted next season. I think one of the things that we hear from people is, they don't like the rules to change, mid-season. We're certainly hearing, that element. We might change one this season. We did a poll on 6 of 8 or 3 of 4 for each half in terms of how the races count. And that was really based on, we had some Zwift maintenance hurt a Zone H race. Only a few people were able to finish before the servers went down for maintenance, and so that race was mostly lost. And so that was one of the aspects that we looked at mitigating that particular circumstance. And so for sure next season it'll be 6 of 8, and there's a high probability that it'll be that way this season. 50% of the people that were polled wanted it changed this season, 20% next season, and 30% wanted it to remain the same. So we'll probably look at doing that. We're still thinking about it for a couple more days, but we'll let everybody know in terms of how that shakes out.
Gotcha. One other change too was that I noticed as a woman was with, and you did a poll as well with the mixed races versus the starting the women separately. And I know that you guys did a poll on that, and I think different zones, you have women spread out across 8 different zones, and now are racing mixed, except for in E. Is that correct?
I think that is correct. Right off the top of my head, I think E is the only one where we separate the men and the women's completely. We base that on numbers, and we're just trying to support women's racing in every way that we can and make it the most enjoyable experience that we can for women. So, one of the things that we did, and before I give you the results of the poll, Beth, I'll get your take on it as well, because sure. I think that's important. But we're reaching out to women to try and understand how best to approach some of the challenges that we might see. So, what's your take on mixed racing versus separated racing? And this, by the way, everybody should understand. The question is generally, I think everybody in the end wants. Well, not everyone, but the vast majority of people want separated racing. So, men race and women race. But sometimes when the numbers are low, in terms of participants, that becomes a little bit of a struggle. So the question is not long-term whether we have mixed races or not, but more in the short term as we build the league and we build the participation on the ladies' side. How do we keep it enjoyable during that time frame? And that's what this is addressed at handling. So right now it's evolving. Is that what we could say is sort of evolving right now? Yes. So as we'll do more and more things. In fact, we're talking to some women pro teams and a number of other ways to increase the participation. And I think that will happen naturally over time as well as we address challenges and make the league more and more fun as time goes on. We expect the numbers to go up, which will mitigate some of these issues, and then they become non-issues because you have the races as you would expect. While the numbers are low, then a lot of ladies have expressed a desire to race with the men so that they're not. They have wheels to follow and there's tactics to handle. Not everybody agrees, and that's why we did a poll. So, do you want me to give you my 2 cents before you tell me what your polling was? Because I'm dying to know. But yes. Give me your 2 cents. So I don't want to change your take yet, and then I'll tell you what the poll results were. Sure. So first of all, from a racing perspective, I race in Zone B, and I'm currently in the A bracket. So with the way that the league is structured, the A bracket is from which your points and your rankings are going to hopefully result in the real life racing in LA in March. So that's my perspective. So everybody, when they give their opinion, they're talking about themselves, right? They're not talking about sort of the big picture. It's me first. So let me put me first here. And in our zone, I think in preseason we had 6 to maybe 8 racers, and I think that we're
depending, like in the last like 3 weeks, we've had similar, and so we know it's a small group. We know who the women are, and most of us are A. And I think in our bracket, there's a preference to do an individual start, even though there are just a few of us. I can understand, like, let's not put me first, because I can understand why, if you're racing and you might be in a B, C bracket, and that you're racing for fun and for fitness and for strength and for training, but you're not really striving to get to the CVR World Cup in March. I can understand that it might be a lonely world, that you can't do the same tactics and stuff like that. But when you're counter to that, when you're going to be going to a CVR World Cup, you're not going to have those other wheels to follow. So I can kind of see both sides of it. We know that lighter, weighing less riders, have to put a little bit more watts on the flats to kind of keep up with the heavier men, who, even at the same watts per kilogram, are, I could be doing 4 watts per kilogram, and another heavier rider could be doing it, but his absolute watts are higher. So it's harder to hold on. But as far as women go, I'm kind of one of the heavier riders, which I never thought I would be a heavier rider. But I can mash some watts off and hang on to some of the faster guys for a little bit longer, so that gives me an advantage. But that advantage I will not have if I am at CVR World Cup, because it'll be just 10 women, and that's who it'll be. So, so in the future, I kind of look at it as like, well, maybe there's a way to, I'm thinking solutions here, maybe there's a way to have mixed racing and separated racing. I don't know what the answer is, but and it's hard to please everybody. I know that. But when I raced mixed, I had a great time. I found 3 or 4 guys that were really friendly, and we worked together, and it changed the dynamics a little bit, and it was fun. But I also kind of miss knowing where I am in the race, knowing where my competitors are in the race. So now tell me the results, Frank.
Yeah, so let me tell you the results. I have a couple of interesting observations along the way as well. So
sure.
I don't know that we have the answer yet either, but we are going to continue to work at it until we get the correct answer. I think in terms of the poll, it was very, very interesting. Mixed won out, but it wasn't a majority. It was like 45%.
Okay.
Separated racing, but all together, all the women together, all the brackets together, came in next at like 36%. So not far behind. So you can see there's this sort of natural divide, occurring as to what would be the best approach. And I think we will look at the A's. And they might want to race a little bit different, so maybe we separate them out. Maybe we leave the ones mixed. So we're going to continue to look at the best ways to make that experience good. I think a hint I might give you, Beth, with regards to mixed racing. Hopefully that'll dwindle over time. I think that's the majority of women would like to see that. But remember, when you go to the World Cup, you're liable to see, especially if you get to the World Cup and you are in the elite division, just remember there might be some very, very strong women there as well, and practicing a little bit in the mixed groups might be to your benefit as well. Now, that I'm not trying to promote the mixed side. I think that this is clearly this league. Right. And what we're doing with the league is just, we want to make this great for women, and
right.
And so we'll follow their lead in that regard, and be good stewards of the league in terms of guiding it to where it needs to be. But it was just a thought when you were chatting that you're not sure who's going to be in that elite category, and I think I made some reference to some. Pro female teams, UCI Tour type teams. So you're liable to see one or two women show up that you weren't expecting that might be very strong and might be good to practice following wheels that are hard to follow.
Yeah, well, I also think that the general level of competition is going to increase. I think that it's just going to continue to get harder and harder and harder and stronger. People are going to enter the league, both men and women, and I think that like elevating the level of competition is what's really fun. And if I like being well matched. I loved racing last week because I felt like it was a fair fight, where it was someone that it wasn't that I was 2 minutes ahead of them or they were 2 minutes ahead of me and there was no way to make up that ground. It's more interesting when you're racing with people who have who push you, who have some matched ability, and and I do know there are a number of women in the E zone who would just hand it to me. So I'd gladly try to chase their wheel for 30 seconds, but I might not be able to hang on that long. So are there other questions that came up, Frank, that you'd like to address? Anyone else, or training questions or anything? Did we cover it all?
From a training perspective, one of the things that we've had a lot of questions on is, how are you selecting? How do you, what's the best way to do this so that you make it even for everybody? And so what we came up with is we're going to have literally a little, lotto ball thing that we turn, and then a ball is going to pop out, and it's going to help us center what our selection is around. So what this does is this makes it fair for everybody. So for men, there'll be a ball, so let's say 32 pops out, and then that will be 3.2 watts per kilogram for 20 minutes. We'll build all the rankings off of that, and then for ladies, let's say 2.8 pops out, and then that will build the rankings for that group. And then that's the way that we make it fair for anybody, so that you don't have to be crazy fit. You don't have to be riding your bike 20 hours a week to be selected to go to the performance category. We're making this so that normal folks can be a part of this. We want the busy dad or busy mom with job, kids, all these other things that just have time to ride 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a week. To be eligible to be able to win and get to the finals. So we're going to do that, and it's going to be really exciting, because what will happen is each person is going to have their individual strengths and weaknesses. Maybe we'll have some people who are better sprinters, or maybe their FRC is better and they can go up short hills and attack quicker. But generally, most people's fitnesses will be close together at the finals. So that should be really exciting. Before they get to the finals, they're selected for a training camp. So my team, we're going to have this amazing 4-day training camp where they come. They're going to ride. We're going to do pace lines. We're going to do sprints. They're going to climb mountains. We're going to do a time trial. We're going to break into different groups and have simulated races against each other. So the people who come in the finals, who make it to the finals, are going to really be real cyclists. I mean, it's not just somebody who rides indoors. And so that's something else that we really wanted to strive for, was somebody who, hey, you've got skills. You have to be able to know how to do all these things, as well as be a strong cyclist and be a part of this community and be a part of the training challenge. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood how that's happening, because we feel like we've come up with a really fair way to bring any rider who wants to be a part of this into the finals and get there.
Gotcha. Yeah. The training camp seems like just a wonderful topping to to be able to have that chance to ride in real life and work with a coach and kind of culminate all of their hard work. So I think it's a nice reward.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to have coaches there. There's going to be all kinds of great coaching. It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, I have people come all around the world to my training camps. I've done training camps for 21 years now, and it's just incredible. So it is going to be a really great experience and a lot of fun just to get to come to the training camp. So, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great.
And everybody is watching this collectively, crossing their fingers and hoping that their ball gets selected in the lottery. Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be honest, right? You sit in your basement or your garage or your spare bedroom or whatever, and you're grunting out the training, and then just the normal things of life happen where Zwift crashes and you don't have your file, or you can't upload the file, or you can't you have all these little first world problems, right? Where you're like, wait a minute, my life is ending because Zwift crashed or whatever. But then at the end of the day, you finish the program and you get to a point where you have this opportunity. So I think that keeping that reward in mind. I know that I am, even though again I'm not being very compliant on the training program. I got to be honest. I've been trying.
Your 5 group workouts in.
I do.
Well, I think that's one of the awesome points to the training plan that I've seen. Where else has let's say a club level rider been able to get that extra motivation in a winter training plan? Traditionally prior to Zwift and CVR and things like that, it was, picking a plan and doing it just for performance results. But sometimes that's not motivating for people, staring at a movie while they're doing a 2-hour, workout on a Saturday. But now you've got that extra incentive where you're able to win something. There's a prize at the end to keep that motivation, to get you on the bike, knowing that you've got that opportunity. Prior to this, most opportunities that came out of training over the winter and things like that were really reserved for elite level cyclists.
Right. Having a why.
Yeah, sorry, I just didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
I think that, those are important aspects. But you mentioned prizes, Casey, which did jog my memory on something. People, I think, are wondering. We started with some swag giveaways, T-shirts, and people talked about, wouldn't socks be great? And there's been a little pause, really for 2 reasons with regards to swag. One, the holidays, and we got behind that brilliant planning again. I'll have a conversation with that individual. And number 2, I think we're going to have here in short order some very exciting announcements on some partnerships with regards to and how that will result in swag giveaways. But some really neat ideas coming from some potential partners, and so hopefully within the next few days you'll hear a lot on that. But I can tell you that socks are coming, as well as T-shirts, and maybe some jerseys and some other stuff that will be really fun for people who are performing well, in the league as well as the random pieces. So stay tuned for that. Some exciting announcements coming.
Fantastic. Well, gentlemen, I hope that we can, this has been fun. I hope we can do it again sometime soon, maybe towards the end of the season, although we'll be gearing up for our the March event there. Thank you all for joining, and we will see how the races go tomorrow. Any parting thoughts, Kim or Casey? Strategy for your race tomorrow. You want to share?
It's actually a rest week for me. I'm traveling. This week. So
yeah. When I can sprint him, straight up, he's not going to show up. I see how it is.
I've got 3 good finishes already. I'm liking the best of format of this. So I get to go out of town for work, and it corresponds with Hunter's rest week in the training plan, and it corresponds with the last week of the month. So I'm going to kick back with my feet up in a hotel room, and I'm going to watch everybody else work.
Nice. And Kim?
Yeah, I think the flat course, I need to play it safe. I'm going to hang on for the last 200, 100 meters, and then see how it goes that way. But definitely no heroics, I don't think, on the flat London course.
Yes. Well, and I'll hopefully I'm not going to give away any of my tactics, maybe because I don't have any. Whatever. I'll have to ask Frank for the secrets for what not to do. He'll watch my stream and text me and say, "What are you thinking?"
Oh, I could have texted you. That would have been a good idea.
Well, you know what? I didn't have my phone on this last one. I dropped my phone. So one of the things, because I've been, streaming to CycleView, and one of the things that I, as I'm like making sure my stream key is right and making sure my audio and doing all the thing and blowing it on the warm up, like I dropped my phone, and it was like my options were turn on the fan or pick up the phone, and I opted for fan. So even if you had texted me last week, I wouldn't have got it. But I'll have it a little closer for this week. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. For CVR World Cup Roundtable, I'm Beth York, and we will see you next time.